Hey everyone, Jeff here at StopThePirates.blogspot.com. Let's talk a little bit about today what the birth certificate is. Your birth documentation should be straightforward and transparent. However, it soon becomes the most complex and secretive paper trail imaginable. This alone suggests a long history of corruption, and it is a long one. The process really involves a maze of secret trusts, various parts of legislation, and which is basically focused on claiming your estate. So the modern birth certificate began as a settlement certificate issued in England in 1837 to officially record the poor, or the paupers, granting basic rights to benefits in exchange for recognition of their status as owned property, lawful slaves, also known as indentured servants or bondsmen. Now, I always tell people that we're basically bonded economic debt slaves, and it has a kind of a negative connotation to it. But let's call a spade a spade. Let's call it like it is, which is what we are. And if you're kind of new and just kind of you're a U.S. citizen born in this country, and you look around and you think, "Wow, this place is great. It's a giant carnival. It's a giant big circus. Everyone's having a good time." And just go to school, get a job, and be a rock star or whatever. Everything's going to be great. But eventually, along your journey, you get tired of this. My personal, you get kind of tired of going to the carnival every night, and you start looking around and go, "Hey, what's really going on here? What's really the deal?" And excuse me, it starts out too as you think, hey, it's a free country, and God bless America, and it's the greatest country in the world, and then you start getting a couple of speeding tickets or things like this, and oops, you forget to pay them, and then the next thing you know, you're getting pulled over again, and then you're getting taken to jail, and then you got to spend 3 or 5 nights in jail for a speeding ticket that you didn't pay. And you're going, what? It doesn't really make sense. Why are they? How can they afford to put me in jail for 5 to 10 days to, because I didn't pay a $300 speeding ticket? It doesn't add up. It doesn't make sense. Why? How can they afford to put a guy that steals a $500 watch in prison for 5 years at 60 to 80 grand a year? Well, that doesn't add up. It doesn't make sense. It just, there's more people in prison in this country than any other country in the world. And if you look at the population amount, and because it's a big business, and you kind of explain that, it all kind of starts out with the birth certificate. So we are lawful slaves, indentured servants, and bonded debt slaves. So a child's birthplace was its place of settlement, where its bond began. Thus, a settlement is equivalent to a voluntary slave plantation. And since 1933, all Americans have been required by statute to have a birth certificate and a social security number. And since 1990, under the United Nations and the World Health Organization, the WHO, by the Convention of the Rights of the Child, the birth certificate process has been an international system of settlement. So understand that any country that we're actually under the United Nations and the World Health Organization, and the generally accepted trade and tariffs. I think it's called GATT. According to GATT, everyone has to have a social security number. And it's called different things in different numbers, but it's basically the same thing. And it's all the international bankers who are the ones rolling the world. So you think of like the U.S. military as being paid by these United Nations, and they literally get a check from United Nations. It just says the Federal Reserve, no, not the Federal, U.S. Treasury, which is totally wholly owned by the International Monetary Fund, which works under the United Nations and the World Health Organization. So there is it's not like you're a U.S. citizen and rah, 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 wave your flag, because what you are is a bonded debt slave on a plantation whether it's here or whether it's in another country. So when you are born or given life, it's a record of live birth. It's created as prima facie evidence of your life. The American equivalent is a notification of birth or registration. It is your affidavit of life with details that absolutely identify your living standing. It records your given name as a unique title, i.e. John, to your estate. The autograph of your mother establishes the origin trust of which you are the beneficiary. You are the holder in expectancy of your estate, which will descend to you as of right when you attain the age of majority, which is 18. The original trust should serve you well, but soon your parents are told that you must be registered. They are under no such lawful obligation. And that's important to understand. There's no law that says you have to register. But then you're considered abandoned property, and you could be picked up by one of the salvage ships, the U.S. salvage ships, and taken into custody and under maritime admiralty law. But anyway, so where was I? So your mother establishes the origin of the trust in which you are the beneficiary. You are the holder in expectancy of your estate, which will descend to you as a right when you attain the age of majority, which is 18. So anyway, soon your parents are told at the hospital that you must be registered, and nobody even questions it now. I mean, their operation is so fully impacted into people's collective consciousness. The state is very insistent for reasons undisclosed. According to the ecclesiastical law, an estate can only be held in a trust by a man. But your mother was asked for her maiden name, constituting maternity. It is either maternity is either illegitimate or natural. The former is the condition of the mother who has given birth to legitimate children, while the latter is a condition of her who has given birth to an illegitimate children. Maternity is always certain, while the paternity is only presumed. And that's Bouvier's Law Dictionary, 1856 edition. Therefore, all natural-born children are illegitimate bastards with uncertain fatherhood, having no paternal holder of their estate. When registering an informant unknowingly makes an accusation as to your illegitimacy. An informant, the law dictionary definition, is a person who informs or prefers an accusation against another. That's Black's Law, 2nd edition. The Status of the Children Act of 1969 says, for the purposes of the act of marriage includes a void marriage, so you are legally a bastard without rights. And bastard considered nullius filius. A bastard has no inheritable blood in him, and therefore no estate can descend to him. Bouvier's Law Dictionary, 1856 edition. Moreover, your given name, title, is recorded in the stillborn column. A stillborn child is one incapable of living. If they do not, in fact, survive so long as to rebut this presumption of law, they cannot inherit. It's Black's Law Dictionary, 2nd edition. The state can now legally claim your estate, making you a ward of the state in an estates for life foreign situs trust. An estate, the definition of that, the estates for life created by operation of law are, fourth, jointure. The estate for life is somewhat similar to the usufruct of the civil law, Bouvier's Law Dictionary, 1856. Jointure or joinder is similar to usufruct, which is rights to derive income from property of another. Your record of live birth and the registrar's evidence are used to create a birth certificate bond, publicly certifying what a property title is registered as a security for the national debt. It is like a warehouse receipt for a baby that delivered goods, and warehouse receipt, definition of that, a warehouse receipt, which is considered a document of title, may be a negotiable instrument used for financing with inventory as security. Black's Law Dictionary, 7th edition. At the same time, the bond converts your given name and family name into a trade's name. Only corporations have a last name. A legal person has been created by the state as a franchise child of the parent corporation. Okay? Now I was going to bring something up here before, but I kind of spaced out what it was, so I'll get back to that. So your record of anyway, so they make the bond, and you are considered a bastard child. If you look at the your birth certificate, and your mother's maiden name is always on there. Okay, so you're a ward of the state, unless you go back and tell them, hey, I'm not dead, and I want my estate back. You're always going to be a ward of the state. Anyway, the bond is sold to the World Bank, the Bank of International Settlements, created in 1931 by the Vatican as settlor of the trust. Your weight in ounces on the record of live birth is to calculate your market value relative to gold. Your bond becomes registered security, which the Treasury uses as surety for Treasury securities, such as Treasury bonds, notes, and bills. So you and I have been monetized. The people truly are a credit of the nation. However, in the corrupt system, the people's credit is effectively human capital or livestock. That's why they call it a stock market. Although the state can seize the legal person, baby, as a ward of the state, if the state's investment is threatened. Its greatest value is realized from the matured working adult. The perpetrators of this deception know that you could one day discover the truth and invoke your power of attorney from the age of 18, which is basically property law. Certain things, you do have redemption, and a lot of the information on my blog, stopthepirates.blogspot.com, gets into ways you need to go about kind of undoing all this, if that's what you choose to do. I don't recommend that for anybody, but if you choose to do it, I mean, it's some people feel compelled to do that, and exposing what's really going on to people. You try to explain this to the average person, they won't even get it. I mean, that's my experience. I mean, they just won't even, and I don't think it's for everybody, There's entities on this planet that come here and they're not interested in this kind of thing, knowing they're just here to have a good time and then leave again. Fine. But if you're sick of being used as a chattel debt slave, and they are here to tap into that bond that's created at your birth, and they do that through statutes and codes for the U.S. citizens. The United States of America is not a country, it's a corporation. It's a multinational corporation. It's a crown corporation ultimately owned by the Vatican. So what they try and do, all crimes, there's something like 6 million statutes and codes on the books. So you're always doing something wrong, and they're going to get you for something. They just keep on coming out. I mean, they talk about Congress, they call them the lawmakers, because that's what they do. Because ultimately the United States corporation is bankrupt, and in order to fund this operation, to pay back the bankers, they have to come up with more statutes and codes, which they ultimately sell. They are statute merchants, and any major corporation can invest in those, and they do, and it's all a big paper monopoly type situation. But it's fascinating stuff if you want to take the time to learn this stuff. I have so much information that I've put together over the last 10, 15, 11, 12 years that it would take you, I don't know, a long time to really grasp it all. But it's if you don't have a hobby, this is a good one for you. So anyway, the bond is sold to the World Bank, Bank of International Settlements, and so we've all been modified. We're all livestock. Although the state can seize the legal person, baby, as a ward of the state's investment is threatened. Its greatest value is realized from the matured working adult. That's why, to really get the most economic energy out of you, you have to be gone into the government schools where it's all basically just propaganda. You're kind of dumbed down to just watch football and not really think or try to recognize, define, and solve your own problems. It's all about just get out there and get a job and try and buy a BMW and buy a house, which is buy a house means get a mortgage, which takes you 30 years to pay off. So you got to pay for like 3 houses. In the meantime, the value goes up and down. That's all a big scam. So let's talk about your legal person, which is your name in all capital letters, is legally a vessel in which the state has a secured interest via the birth bond. When you reach full legal age, you become the master, which is Mr., Mrs., Miss, capital M, of the vessel. The living you has gone out to sea, and under Admiralty maritime jurisdiction, which is the law of the sea, if you are missing for 7 years, you can be declared legally dead by the court. The same process is applied to ships and mariners lost at sea. But you will probably voluntarily forfeit your estate. You may start work and register as a taxpayer with the Internal Revenue Service, or you may enroll on the voting register. Either way, you are transferring your estate to the state's legal person by registering as an accommodation party. If you decide not to register as the legal person, you are a vessel lost at sea. After 7 years, you died without a will and testate. So someone is appointed to manage your estate, your trust, and the public trust applies to the family court to manage your estate under the protection of personal and property rights. That's an act, application in order to administer property. Anyway, under the first sovereign public trust agreement set up by your mother, you are the beneficiary, while your mother and the state are your trustees. The state employees are your public servants obligated to work for your benefit and defend your rights, having a fiduciary responsibility to do so. But under the new foreign situs trust, the government becomes the beneficiary, and you become the trustee obligated to work for the trust, because the trustee always pays. The state has turned the tables. The people are employed by the state as debtors for the private banking system, which is upheld by a private bar association, guild, law society, while acting as the trustee of the foreign situs trust in your capitalized name. You will receive endless presentments, which they call bills, but aren't bills, or statements, which that employee of the state, the legal person, strawman, is obligated to pay. But the theft of your estate is based on false presumptions that cannot be proven in fact. The fundamental flaw is that in order for a birth certificate to be issued, a man or a woman must have been born on the land. Plainly, you are not really dead, so you will still have living rights on the land. You are the holder in due course of your estate title under the Sussex v. Act 1666. If the supposed dead man proves to be alive, then the title is revested. Remember that only you have a birthday in which you were born into this world from your mother, whereas the artificial legal person has a date of birth on which the registered on which it was registered by a registrar, that are usually created different dates. So the maxim of law you want to remember: he who fails to assert their rights has none. And I've gone on quite a long time. That was a really good article right there, kind of breaking it all down. Go to stopthepirates.blogspot.com if you're interested in this information. Thanks for listening. Give it a thumbs up and share it. And what else you got to do? Subscribe. Have a great day.